Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so I think now we can start the event. Welcome to the STEP Special STEAM Seminar, which this month the 7th edition of this seminar series. Okay, so Chris, will you start the event, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Sungwoo. Greetings, everybody. Mr. Park, did you have any greetings that you were going to pass on to open the session this evening? Or?
Yes. 예, 소장님 이거 인사말 진행하시면 될 것 같습니다.
지금 알았어요. 안녕하세요. 포디수리과학창의연구소 박호걸 소장입니다. 오늘 진행되는 스페셜 스팀 세미나에 참여하신 여러분 모두에게 감사 말씀을 드립니다. 이 스페셜 스팀 세미나는 작년 12월 여러분께 첫 선을 보인 이래 어느덧 7번째 행사가 되었습니다. 오늘은 총 3분의 연사를 모시고 진행하게 되었습니다. 이제 오늘의 사회자 중 한 분이자 익스피리언스 워크숍의 스팀 디렉터이신 크리스토프 페니베시 박사님을 소개해드립니다.
So, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Hogol Park, director of the 4D Mathematical Science and Creativity Research Institute. I would like to thank everybody participating today's special STEAM seminar. This event series started last December, and today's event is already the 7th edition of this seminar series. Today, we have 2 sessions with a total of 3 special guests. Now let me introduce today's moderators, Dr. Kristof Fenyvesi, STEAM Director of the Experience Workshop, and also our another moderator, Dr. Christopher Brownell from Fresno,
Fresno Pacific University.
I'm sorry, yeah, Fresno Pacific University. Yes, please give a warm. I'll give you the mic to Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sungwoo. I appreciate your working through all of that. That's a lot to remember and read off. Tonight we have two different talks coming to us, and we'll be enjoying some very engaging speakers and very excited and happy to share with us material. I'm sure right now the first pair, Leonard Sommer and Patrick Newell, are from Ideas to Foster Creativity. They're going to speak on ideas to foster creativity in the 21st century and creative professionals that inspire change. So Leonard and Patrick, please take it away. I don't know who's going to be speaking first, but we'll leave it to you.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Before I would give the floor to our dear guests, I would like to say a few words about them, because you might be curious that whom we will meet today or tonight, depending on the time zone where you are. Actually, these wonderful speakers are not even in the same time zone, so they will share a talk from 2 different spots of the globe. So actually, Leonard Sommer is in Germany, and he's a creative agency director in Germany, but also he has a deep interest in education as well, and especially creative education. And a few years ago, maybe many years ago, he decided to collect all the best creative practices all around the world. And he created a wonderful book. It's called Classroom Think Tank. And this is an excellent collection of more than 100 practices selected all around the globe. And this book is just going to be published soon, actually, probably with your help and with your contribution, because this book is now in crowdsourcing phase. So I'm sure that Leonard will introduce where the book it is. And his friend, Patrick Newell, is in Tokyo. He's the co-founder of the Tokyo International School and also the professor of the Shizenkan University in Tokyo, Japan. And he's sitting in the top of a skyscraper actually right now. So I will really ask him to show his view in the beginning of the talk. It's absolutely fantastic. It's in Shibuya district in Tokyo, if I'm right. And I'm really excited to hear about how to foster creativity in the 21st century education. And I'm really looking forward to this journey, what this book will offer to us, and I'm sure we will get a sneak peek in this presentation. So, Leonard and Patrick, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristof. Patrick, I can see you. Are you there?
Yes, he's here.
Good, wonderful.
Yes.
So wonderful. So again, just introducing myself, because I'm going to ask you, Patrick, just to share some words. So my name is Leonard Sommer, as mentioned. I'm not a teacher, as Kristof said. I'm not a professor or education expert. I'm an entrepreneur in the creative and digital transformation industries for more than 25 years. This is why I was always dependent on creative problem-solving skills. Since 2015, I'm a member also of the board of Education Y. It's a mass scaling platform for German schools to put children in charge of their own learning and to enable each of them to develop essential social and emotional skills. Education Y has applied this peer-based approach to parenting and to the wider educational ecosystem of teacher education already. And in 2013, I met Patrick the first time in Tokyo. And a warm welcome to you, Patrick. Please share some impressions of Tokyo and also some impressions and let us know who you are and what you have done so far.
So here's my view. I think some of you might have already seen that. I'm on the 45th floor in Shibuya of a building called Scramble. This is one of the Olympic stadiums from 1964. And this is going to be the opening ceremony in track and field stadium starting on July 23rd. This is just a view of Tokyo. I'm in a co-working space called WeWork. I'm an advisor for WeWork Japan. I started my own international school 25 years ago, and I've been very involved with the future of learning and technology and basically STEAM education now for a long time, well before they called it STEAM education. And I could go on and on and on about all the fun things I've done in my life, but I'll stop there.
Let me just first, could you share why actually you decided to create that school? What was happening in your family?
Well, I was interested. I had two children, and we're trying to think about what kind of school to put them in. And just was looking around, and then I started thinking about, why do we learn? What do we remember from school? What's important? And I realized that schools had quite a gap between what's important for our future and what we remembered from school. And so I decided to start my own school called Tokyo International School 25 years ago for my own children. And it just went from 5 students to 12 and grew and grew and grew and became actually a model school for Japan and actually many schools around the world around very, very aligned with STEAM education.
Great. What have you personally seen change over the past 20 years in education and learning? What have been your observations?
Unfortunately, almost nothing. I've been so frustrated. I'm a recovering educator, not a recovering alcoholic. I'm a recovering educator because it's been so ridiculous how little has changed. And it's great to see initiatives like STEAM because it's actually bringing together different subject areas in an interdisciplinary way to teach some of the skills that we need for the future. But in regards to education and change, unfortunately, very little, and really hoping that we'll have a lot more moving forward. And this whole COVID situation, I think, has very much disrupted the possibility of what learning could look like in a hybrid model situation.
And how is STEAM impacting change in education and future of learning? It's
a great question. So and I guess one way to put it is, if you think about in life, we don't stop and say, oh, I'm doing math, or I'm doing science, or I'm doing arts too much, right? We may be drawing a painting or painting a painting or something, and then we realize we're doing arts. But it's been, to me, quite ridiculous in many ways that we've had subjects isolated in the way that we have, because our brain works in an interdisciplinary way and the world works in an interdisciplinary way. So I think what's wonderful about STEAM is it's tying together many very important subjects in an interdisciplinary way so that we can look at things in a holistic way to make and create our future utilizing all the different things. And if you think about the future and how to wire the brain for change, we wire our brain for change by creating and making things. So if you think about, when you make and create something, it didn't exist before. So you're imagining into the future something that you envision, and then you're taking all of the different resources or things that and let's just say STEAM, for example, all the different areas of STEAM, and you're integrating that together to make and create something that doesn't exist. And I think that's really powerful. And if you think about the way technology is shifting the world and the impact it's having, STEAM is really, I think, very aligned with the kind of change that we need.
Just jump back to your school again, because I saw it already in, I think that was 2013. What is so different? What have you done different in that school? So why is it a change at least for your family? I mean, you did it for your kids. So what is different there?
I think the key is just, and again, it's really, to me, very aligned with STEAM because it's interdisciplinary. It nurtures the skills we need for the future, which is critical thinking and creativity, design thinking mentality. So really, instead of focusing on subject area, it was very much project-based learning. We did not have textbooks. We never had any textbooks. And so it was always about creating something, making something, solving a world's problem, understanding a concept in a project way, and then integrating together all the different subject areas. And then also the way the students shared what they had learned was using digital tools. They might have made videos or a presentation. So they used a lot of digital tools to share what they had learned versus just taking a typical exam. And this is all the way back in 1995, we were doing this. So again, for me, I've been a frustrated recovering educator because unfortunately most education systems in the world haven't really moved into this more interdisciplinary way. And mainly the reason they haven't moved is because the governments haven't figured out a way to assess the masses beyond standardized testing that will allow for them to see how their populations are doing in the millions of students that they have. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge, really, as well as the way that universities are assessing how we enter them. So I think that's two reasons why we haven't seen that convergence earlier.
You are also teaching still today a class at a Japanese high school. How is it going? What are you doing there?
Well, it's been, Japan is really known for its science and its engineering and its math and its technology, but there isn't a lot of integrating happening. And so what we've actually done is we've gone more of an inquiry-based designed thinking approach. And so what's been interesting, one is we've been integrating the different subject areas, but at the same time, we've been enabling the students to take control of their learning. And so right now, I'll just back up a little bit. So we had these students create their own classroom guidelines. They had $1,000 to design their classroom. And they took a social and emotional intelligence test to kind of see how they were social and emotionally in the class. And this isn't STEAM, but I think at a high school age, social and emotional intelligence is really important. And then from that base now, we're looking at Olympics and we're looking at technology and we're looking at how, because obviously we're hosting the Olympics in a month's time, and how is technology impacting the Olympics? The athletes and what they wear, or the Paralympics and the different limbs they have, or different things they use to assist them, might be the wheelchairs that they're using, as well as the technology and used in the media. So the students right now are taking a real subject, which is the Olympics, and looking at how the integration of STEAM plays a role in the Olympics, and how that might be different in 10 years from now as technology and engineering and science evolves.
Interesting. And on the other side, you're a professor also at the Shisekan University. Are you also teaching, or you're including STEAM as well there in your teaching, or?
Yes, I'm teaching a class on the future, future cities, future of work, and future skills. And again, I think it's really quite silly to, I mean, there's times when we need to go deep into a single subject area, don't get me wrong, but really it's really about integration. So if you think about the future of cities, when you're creating a city, say 2035, you're integrating a lot of different things. You might be thinking about sustainability, or things related to sustainability. Then you're thinking about technology, and then you're thinking about the concept of movement. I was just working with Honda, and Honda is creating their kind of one of their key things is mobility, right? So what does mobility mean in the future? Is what kind of vehicles? How do we move around? How do we use technology to be mobile, kind of thing? So what's wonderful is that with the older students, you don't really. It kind of everything is interdisciplinary, and I think that's the key thing with STEAM is it's future that subject areas we think that are related to technology and the future together with the arts, and it's quite powerful. So to answer your question, we're integrating it all the time. It's just not called STEAM.
Last question.
And I just want to say one thing. We have a lot of people from different places. It's so wonderful to see Apa Kabar for those that are coming from Indonesia and California. That's my home state as well, and England and Finland and the Netherlands. This is extraordinary, actually, to see the different people that are here. So thank you all for joining us from around the world. Yes, Leonard, sorry, you had one more question?
No worries. I'm just, you're always so passionate and excited, and there's always happy when you share these emotions with everybody. So actually, last Wednesday, you wrote actually the outro for my book, and that's, it's more or less about where should, let's say, future education go to, and maybe you can share some of these thoughts, what you think what's important in the future. Before we then, I would like also to invite one or two people from the audience, just if they want to have some questions to Patrick before I come to the book. But what's actually the challenge of the future of education?
I think it's the adults, actually. Well, I mean, in regards to the future of education, it's how do we find the synergy between letting somebody develop at their own pace individually and bringing them together as humans collectively to share and make and create a better world. And so if you think about in our lives, the only time in our lives where we say, okay, you're 11 years old, so you must be together with 20 something or whatever the number is, other 11-year-olds, and you're expected to advance pretty much at the same pace together. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so the wonderful thing moving forward is there's a lot of programs online that are allowing for students to go at their individual pace and what they're comfortable with, and look at things over and over again, and so on in an interactive way, because our digital natives really need to be much more interactive than we did when we were growing up. So I think the technology and allowing for us to be individual learners and to develop what the ministries of education or boards of education think that we should learn. And I think one thing that's not going to change is the education boards and ministries around the world are always going to, I think, tell us what they think we should learn. A lot of times they don't tell us how to learn. And so what's wonderful is now we have technology that I think will allow for a lot more people, and AI that's coming, and the ability to adapt programs to each learner. So I think this hybrid model of how much can we do online and how much can we make school feel like after school? Right? So how much can we create situations where students are able to come together and really be human and really develop, as you were saying earlier, the social and emotional intelligences that we really need moving forward. So it's the human side that we need to develop as groups. I think a lot of what school is about is teaching people how to get along and how to be together. And Japan is extraordinary at that. I think it's one of the most extraordinary countries in the world. I've been here for about 30 years, and people being together as one and moving together as one. And it's very difficult to move together as one, as we all know, if we've led teams and groups. So the future of learning really is a hybrid of being human, making and creating things. I call it creative collective intelligence, and allowing technology to enable us to learn at our own pace and motivate us to go further, but at the same time meeting the standards and guidelines that our governments are asking us to meet.
Thank you, Patrick. So before I would love to share my, let's say, the traveling about my book, is there anybody who wants to ask a question to Patrick eventually? To anybody who wants to join, just anybody from the audience? Question? Kristof, you want to ask a question? Christopher?
Stephen's raising his hand. Stephen, please.
Cool.
Can I interrupt now?
Yeah, sure. Welcome.
Well, you know, like I said, it's 2 in the morning, and I thought I was going to have trouble staying awake until Patrick started talking. Well, I want to debate you on things for about 6 hours already, and I've only known you for about 10 minutes. I mean,
Beautiful.
It's like, I can tell you're a troublemaker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yes.
Positive disruption.
Oh, yeah. And so, not right now, but I just want to let you know that oh, God, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start. So just want to let you know that now I won't be able to go to sleep. So it's, yeah, you set off so many, they're good alarms. I mean, many of the things you stated, I'm like you, have been involved for over half a century, and we've been through the cycles of this and the cycles of that. And you hit some very key points. I live in a part of the world where we have teachers out in Western Kansas that have been esteemed teachers in their entire career, starting in the 1920s, because they're one-room schoolhouse. You know, everything was integrated. And what we've learned from those teachers, excellent teachers. And so I don't want to debate any particular issues, but if I run into you again, we're going to be talking a long time.
Sounds great, Stephen. Looking forward to it.
All right.
I don't know why I keep looking at tree or try. Are you from Indonesia? Is that correct? I love your country. It's such an amazing country. I don't know if you wanted to ask anything or share anything. Here we go. Scaffold training teachers changing from subject-based curriculum to STEAM equipped. Hossam is kind of about how to help that. Yeah, you know, I think it's finding good role models that shares that. So in this high school, I'm an advisor for the high school. It's all boys school, 700 students, and Japanese education system is pretty rigid. And when I walk around this high school, I see, I'm not kidding you, 1/3 of the students are sleeping. Another third are on their computers doing something. And then maybe a quarter of them are chatting, and then the rest are listening to the teacher trying to yell above them to share what they want to share with the students. But the interesting part is all of the different criteria is being met. They're in the classroom. The teacher is teaching the curriculum they're supposed to teach, and they will be assessed on what they're learning at some stage, right? So they're ticking all the boxes there. But I think one of the most important things, so I'm actually teaching the class because I need to role model the change we wish to see. So I think when you talk about training teachers from changing from subject-based curriculum to STEAM curriculum, is you really need to show them good examples, show them classrooms where students are working in groups, they're really engaged, they're really interacting, they're taking the different subject areas and they're integrating them in a way that's meaningful and has purpose, would be my answer to that, to your question, Hossam. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Thank you, Patrick. I think we could even, I mean, we did that already to talk about hours. So, but let's jump to our project. We have been also involved a lot, and also Kristof had been involved. So thanks for this. So to share now, build the bridge to classroom think tank. And for this, I would be happy to share my screen. So excuse me if I get personal at the beginning. My kids, Marlon and Miller, actually, they are today 14 and 16. They are growing up in what is without question the most rapid period of change in human history. They differ from former generations in many aspects. They've grown up with digital tech and taken it for granted, having learned how to see it from infancy. And they've only ever known a world that changes hour to hour, second to second in innovation. In 2014, when I graduated with an executive MBA, my master thesis at the Berlin School of Creative Leadership focused on one question. I asked myself how to foster creativity in 21st century education. And from this central question, the book and private passion project was born. Using my background in creative consulting and innovation, I started the project, Classroom Think Tank. It was, at the beginning, it was a research initiative, also created for the master thesis, to encourage and enable dialogue and resources to be shared between creatives, professionals, and education. Classroom Think Tank was for me a great trip around the world. That's also the reason why I just mentioned that we already spoke about hours in Tokyo. So I met Patrick there. My curiosity brought me to so many people who had been open to share their time, secrets, and also their ideas. And since that, I've asked more than 100 creatives and education futurists in 35 countries, so teachers, principals, and school leaders, to rethink 21st century education. A lot of them actually had been also creative professionals who actually need these skills in their daily work. Let me, before I give you an outlook into the book, just give the chance to a kid to share their voice.
How can an education system designed for the industrial age still be relevant in the 21st century? Let's take a look at some numbers. 65% of today's children will grow up to work in jobs that don't yet exist. 60% of managers see creativity as tomorrow's most important skill, but 85% believe that creativity is suppressed in schools. Come to inspire a vision of schools that foster creativity, with room for children's minds to develop outside-of-the-box thinking, with teachers who guide creativity instead of conformity, with lessons that prepare them for the unexpected as well as the expected. I want to know, what could the education system learn from the creative industry?
So you saw that I'm more or less mainly the curator. So a lot of people just helped, and you saw also 4 names that are so essential. For example, the designer Bruno Bertani loved that project so much that his team, they created a whole book for free. It's 300 pages in an amazing design. There's a Professor Tamara Dolman from Canada who just helped me through the book, also with really checking if everything's educationally okay, because I'm a creative, not a teacher. And then Patrick finally, and Sarah McGill, who then proofread it, because actually it's not my main mother tongue language. So let's start now with just an outlook to the book. A book about 21st century education needs a special cover, actually, we thought. And that's why the designer decided to announce the creative cover project. So in the launch period until August 15th, even everybody of you, so I want to just onboard you now to create a cover in the next weeks and to share it with me. So it's going to be part of the book, because actually the book itself will have no cover. It will have all covers that are submitted. So if you hand in a cover, it's going to be part of this cover as well. And in the end, all covers, actually, the designs will become part of this book via augmented reality. Plus, additionally, I put it together a jury from creative professionals from, I think it's from 12 countries as well, who judged then the best covers. And the 6 covers they liked the most, they are actually also published in the book inside. And there's one winner actually will be then finally printed to be the cover of the book jacket. So I have already, and that was so cool, I think in the last weeks, already 3 schools and 1 university reached out, and their classes are now working on these covers. So I'm going to be excited actually what that's going to be ending. And certainly also want, I think it's going to be hard to maybe craft a book out of wood, but maybe also from the Netherlands, I would be happy to have a cover as well. So please share. Let's jump in actually. Classroom Think Tank will bring together a compact analysis and the experts' opinions of the challenge that's actually that we are facing. So it's interesting now. So I'm just more or less covering also where we're coming from, where we went through, and where we are still actually. Then the book brings together relevant research insights and inspiring statements from well-known experts and also experts that I reached out to. On more than 300 pages, actually, I will share these that's interesting. I jumped over. That's actually what you see here is like an analysis also what the creative leadership actually, how that changed, and also how the leadership skills need to evolve and how actually people influence that, but the school didn't even change anything. So, and with an exciting and creative design, actually, numerous creators from all over the globe share their ideas, actually, about change, about actually why, actually, and how professors could actually bring in another perspective. Also, how a nurturing environment should be created or could be created. What actually the organizational design would be actually as kind of an influencer. And also, that's an interesting part, how the culture, and it's maybe one of the most biggest challenges, how the culture needs to be changed. And Patrick, you mentioned the parents. I see myself always, the problem is very often that we are still grown up in a culture and that we still bring these values to our kids, educational wise. And I think that's a lot of change we need to face, especially. Then what if actually teachers become creative leaders, and how actually could they do this? And this is actually the part of you, Patrick. Maybe you can share one or two sentences about that. You wrote an article about how to create a nurturing learning environment at home. Maybe Patrick, jump in, just share one, two phrases about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna frame it first. On average, children only spend about 20% of the whole year in school. 20%. If you do the math, the number of days by the number of hours and divide it by 8,760, you will see it's probably about 16 to 20% of the time that the children are in school. So the parents are the primary educators. So then most parents don't think about how their home could be a learning environment. How do you create different centers and spaces within your home that allows for children to holistically develop and grow and to nurture their confidence and make them feel safe? That's the key thing. And most parents haven't looked at their home. They think, okay, this is the desk where they study, so therefore, and this is the game room, or this is the video room, or whatever. But really think about home as a learning space. Every part of it has an opportunity to be a learning opportunity for our children. We just don't look at it that way.
Thanks. I thought when I read it, it was just, maybe I also outsourced too much, actually, because I think that's more or less a little bit the thought. And we are outsourcing education. And then we just think, yeah, it runs. And then we go to work. So thanks for that. Certainly also, the book brings on stage a lot of methods that actually could change education. So 16 interesting and inspiring methods are just brought out, not in detail, but just to inspire, and also connected to the resources where they are collected. Then explained by the creators and creative minds who are successfully using these methods actually for their teams. If they use to create creative excellence, these methods will be rolled out. Then certainly, you spoke about that earlier, Patrick, assessment. So that's one interesting article about what would be if you just adopt what we see in the creative industry's world awards. So not assessing, but just awarding, and just pushing for excellence, and just then certainly you might know this, actually, it's this wonderful framework actually from the University of Winchester, that's in here from Spencer Lucas Claxton. And finally, actually...
Before you go on, there's one thing I want to share about assessment. It's a very old Buddhist saying, where attention goes, energy flows. Where attention goes, energy flows. So if we put what we assess is where the energy is going to go. So if you think about in the workplace and throughout our whole life, what we're being assessed on is where our energy is going to go. So what we assess is humongously important to how we develop people moving forward.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. Then finally, and that was for me at the end really exciting, and it needed to be at the end, not only criticizing, say, yeah, who actually did it already? So I reached out to 6 outstanding schools who are already proving that this works, and 6 school leaders from the USA, Canada, Japan, Sweden, and certainly also Finland share their secrets and insights about their innovative educational approach in the book. And schools, so actually that already today create an environment where creativity can bloom actually, and allowing students to discover what they enjoy, to finally develop their individually creative and also thinking skills. And by the way, again, thanks to you, Kristof, to take the time also to contribute a great article to the book.
It was an honor. Thank you.
Your colleague on board. Tell us in some minutes what you were actually your colleague, where these flying kids are, what he wrote about.
Okay. So I tried to submit several chapters or materials with a large delay to this book, actually. Okay. And there was one thing about our South African cooperations, but it's also South Korean if you want, because these kids using South Korean hands-on tools to represent this geodesic dome. Of course, it's connected to Buckminster Fuller's heritage as well, but in the same time, it was a program connecting digital modeling with GeoGebra and also hands-on modeling on this joyful way and problem solving on the fly in this program. But there were also some mathematics and art projects introduced. So this mathematical creativity was involved, and also embodied creativities in terms of a very active classroom. And this came from our colleague Jukka Sinnemäki from the local school in Finland. So I was really happy to share you these practices and also our practices in teacher education. But I found really, really interesting other things in this book. So I just can't wait to get into my hand and read them all. So thanks, Leonard.
Yeah, thank you, actually. So I would like finally at the end to mention that the book is a private project, and that's also self-financed. So net proceeds from the book sales go to the Education Y Foundation. And just something, as one of the 5 social partners of the OECD in Germany, Education Y is helping to shape actually a little bit the next, the 21st century education at an international level. So that's just, it's nothing where I earn anything. So maybe as an outro, just also to not take too much time, some 2 minutes also again on to take a look at the pages.
I don't know if we see your screen now. Do others see your screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So finally, actually, a lot of asked me why I did all this work, and I hope that by collecting and archiving all those excellent and outstanding approaches that they've been shared really with the most people, and that educational practitioners might discover some food, that it brings food for thought and enables them to really inspire their work, their daily work, and also parents. And keeping in mind that this book draws broad conclusions from a small sample, actually. I consider the collation of this work an ongoing process. So everybody of you, if anybody has methods to share or ideas, send it in to me. And I would like then in the second edition that probably or might be then by an editor also that these are included, or that everything's included on the blog so far. So everybody who has, first of all, an idea, or just mention that if you want to create a cover, even, I mean, you know that everybody's a creator. It doesn't matter if you know how to draw, but just do it and share it with me. This dolphins and cows could be a cover, I don't know. And then certainly would be happy that if you want to pre-order one book, Kristof mentioned that already, it's going to be out now end of August. You could just reach out to the page, and there's also a web shop, and just order one, and then I will send it out to, doesn't matter where you are. So thanks again, Kristof, for giving us that opportunity. Also, Patrick, so much for thanks for your help and for that talk today. So that was our part so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard, for taking this effort to wandering around the world and looking for all these practices. And thank you, Patrick, for supporting this project with all your energies and all your involvement. It was absolutely fascinating. And actually, we already got a few questions. I would like to encourage also everybody here to come in the space and also switch on mic, switch on camera, and engage into some conversation with our guests. But here we have also some game designers with us who are also thinking to reform education in a play-based way and through games. And he asked me that, do I know that, for example, Patrick, are you using also hands-on tools in your school? And what's the relationship between digital learning and hands-on learning, and also in this STEAM context? How do you see this hands-on and digital balance or importance?
Yes, thank you. It's a great question. And I put in the chat box that one thing that I've been really feeling strongly about for a long time is that, you know, if you think about games historically have been leveled. So you go to the next level, you go to the next level, you go to the next level. And learning is also leveled, which is quite interesting. What's changed in the kind of gaming world is there's a lot more role playing that's happening than leveling. So you're seeing a lot of different interactions amongst people that are role playing. And so what's interesting is that you can role play a lot now, a lot of different scenarios together with people. So you don't necessarily even have to be face to face to do that. And so what I'm really excited about is the potential for virtual reality, and as the Oculus lenses or whatever moves forward. And the problem is the difference between what we see in a headset and what our eyes see, there's still a gap there between the two. But once those two converge closer and the whole world gets the internet, I think the opportunity to experience different places and cultures and things that are happening will be exponentially expedited. And so that, I think, is going to be a humongous change when you start really. And what's also interesting about virtual reality is that you think your brain believes it's actually happening. In your brain, you think you're experiencing that. And so if you think about what it is about wiring your brain, the neurons are being wired believing that you're actually experiencing that. So the opportunity to use technology for our brain to believe that we're experiencing something has a humongous potential impact on moving things forward. And the hands-on side is really important. I think doing things, it's one of the things that's very interesting about Japan is that there's a lot of mentorship here. There's a lot of making and craftsmanship in your hands. And there's something about, I don't know the kind of neurological background, but there's something about when you actually touch something, there's an emotion or a connection that happens. So hands-on is very important. And in nature is even more important. So if you're having real hands-on in nature experiences, it's really, really powerful. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I'm absolutely agree with you. I hope Imre agrees with you too. He was the source of this question, actually.
Great question.
And I see here a lot of people whom I already know. I don't want to be invasive or how can I say, insulting to anyone. So I wonder if I can bring some people into the discussion. But I see here, for example, Charlotte Graham from Sweden, I hope you don't feel it as an insult, Charlotte, to address you. So you are a specialist also in early childhood education and preschool education. And I think this is an area which should be brought here, because it's before the classroom, or it's in transition to the classroom, but many things happening in this phase, or everything is happening almost now. So Charlotte, what's your reflection? Do you have a question or a comment to our speakers?
Yeah, I find this book extremely interesting, because I think we've just finished and sent into Routledge, I think, a very similar book, and I'm just now wondering, I want to read this one. And I found the illustrations and the way you've done the layout of that really adding to, it says something about what it is we want to achieve. And as you say, it's important to start early as well, as Kristof was saying. I'm not sure I am a specialist in early childhood education. I'm actually a specialist for ages from about 6 to 18. That is my area of expertise. So, but I am now, for Kristof, doing something for early childhood education and investigating that a bit, taking help from other specialists. That is true. But I'm going to order this book straight away. It looks extremely interesting and extremely important, I think, to think about how we can change education, because there is a need to educate for the future of these young people, rather than, which we don't know what it is, rather than for our past, which is what I think we've done a bit up till now. We educate them through specific subjects, we divide everything, we don't encourage collaborativeness really, because we put in, there's always an element of competitiveness rather than collaborativeness, and grading, and perhaps grading the wrong things. And I think there's a lot to be done, and it seems that I think you've hit the nail on the head, or whatever you say, in many areas. In this, I really enjoyed your lecture here.
Maybe your class could hand in and submit covers. Wouldn't that be a great idea?
Sorry?
Your class could also submit covers in the next week. Wouldn't that be a great exercise?
Yeah.
Please do so, please.
Yeah.
The briefing's on the website.
It's so wonderful that you're focusing on early childhood education. It's I wish that we would double the salary of all teachers working with children under the age of 6 years old.
Yeah.
I think 80% of the brain is developed before we're 3, and they say close to 90% by 4 or 5. And so where is the importance of learning and the development of that, and who should we really be honoring and training is those early childhood teachers. And so that's so great you guys are focusing on that, really.
But the thing I found is that, because I'm I'm the principal of a school, and now when I've been doing this investigation for these webinars, I then visited the preschool right next to me, and I was amazed on what they do that I didn't realize. They do amazing things, and then we bring in the children to year 1, and we start from scratch. We don't realize what they've actually learned before, and they don't have the words to articulate and stop us from teaching them again, perhaps in a more boring way. So actually, there is already a lot happening. It's a matter of bringing out the good ideas and examples and spreading them.
Absolutely, and also the emphasis on those skills which are so fundamental throughout all the life. And actually, you don't learn them as a discipline, or you don't learn them as a subject. And school is so much focused on this subject and discipline based learning, and this whole world of imagination is somehow need to be put aside in many of the schools, while this could be the source or the resource of also these skills and the community and many things which is so important. So Charlotte is from Sweden, and we have also someone here from the UK, Pamela Bernard. Pamela is a professor of creativity, creative education, or creativities in education in Cambridge University. You are already know her, actually, or most of us know her already, of course. And it's wonderful, Pam, that you could make it. I'm sorry that the registration process wasn't the easiest, but we are caring for safety. That's another issue. But please, you had a very interesting comment. Would you like to summarize us and have some conversation?
Thank you so much. It's just a joy. I wouldn't have missed this for the world, just to see all of you gathered and to hear the inspiration. And this, you know, it's about hope, but it's more than hope. It's about the doing of change. And this sort of like a dandelion seeds blow in the wind. These seeds of change need to be coming from all ends of the earth, all ends of the globe. And it's meeting today. Thank you so much. Leonard, I've got your book on order. I'm counting the sleeps until it comes.
Oh, thanks so much. You're so great.
I will be sending various images for the potential. I love that collective kind of investment that you're inviting people to kind of bring, ideas to the book, even at this point. And that is a disruption that I'm almost really crying. Because, you know, we need that kind of rebelliousness. And I wonder how you've worked with your publisher, you know, because publishers are also part of the hegemonic kind of instrumentality, the neoliberalism of, and yet they're making all the money. So good on you. I love that. My question is different to the one that's in chat, because that was 4 minutes ago. Since then, I've had about 40 questions. This is the one for now. And then this is about space. People speak about timetables, you know, and teachers say, I don't have time. I don't have time. There's just no time. There's no space. Can't do it. Won't do it. In terms of transdisciplinary change to the timetable, or interdisciplinary, if that's the way you want to, you know, either way. I'm encouraging teachers and head teachers, governors, parents to think about space tables. But I want, you know, where can we kind of create ruptures to enable the space to think very differently? And I wondered, what have you got in this book that actually will help us to share different models of space tables? I refuse to say the other one, with school communities, because it is a community, not something that should be done after school or at lunchtime or a club on the weekend, but rather to really erupt the model that we have of assembling, you know, the schedule, the structure of a school day. So how do you do, you know, what examples have you got of that sort of rethinking and reconfiguring the school day in order to think very differently about change strategies that teachers are happy to sign up and engage with, and that may well be something. Last point, because you're a systems person, and that's you also perform interdisciplinary, transdisciplinarity, because you're bringing these different perspectives, the multivocality to this book, which I can't wait to read. So how are you working with space? Where is it in the book? And how are there any models of structural seismic change that schools have done in order to do differently when it comes to teaching, learning in the 21st century for the future?
It's a great question, actually. It's pretty simple. What there's a chapter about, and I just shared one page about the organizational design of school. And what I practically did is to transform the 70-20-10 method from Google to the school design. So that's what you saw on the page with Eric Schmidt. So he included actually that framework to be sure that everybody at Google works 20% on the time on things that he really loves. And the idea is actually to have a 20% time frame for passion. So it's just only, it's a passion more or less. So you have like a certain time frame that's certainly for the knowledge that's based. Then you have actually a certain time frame that's clearly regulated and also different spaces. That's for passion, and then for execution of projects. And this is actually, that's practically why Google is so innovative, because they give a lot of time for innovation. So that you get, because just imagine if you would only work on search, then they wouldn't be having cars or glasses. It's just because somebody had time to focus on things that he would really create. And that's just as simple. So it's in one chapter, actually, it's about the organization design. So you will find it.
Thank you.
Great.
Can I add to that?
Very good news.
Please, Patrick.
So one model that's quite interesting is the International Baccalaureate model, and especially for the primary years program, the middle years program. It's become quite institutionalized, so it's kind of gotten out of its raw form in some ways that it had initially started, but it's quite a solid program. And the key thing is really finding the balance between a project or a theme or something that the students are working on in their grade level, a common one, and then getting the different teachers who are involved to work together and plan together to integrate those different areas. So all of a sudden, one period of time can become 2 periods of time or 3 periods of time, because those different teachers are all together there, working together or correlating these kind of themes together. And the real trick that the most difficult thing for teachers is, if they're not following the textbook or the exact curriculum, is to make sure that they teach or have covered, or the students have learned all the different areas that the government is requiring of them. And that's the challenge, but it's this co-working, co-collaboration. So schools need to create time for teachers to be able to sit down and plan together and be able to then think about a common theme or subject and how they can integrate their different subject areas into that. And then time becomes less of an issue.
Yes. Let me bring someone more into this discussion. So here we have Karin Steen from South Africa. So Leonard, you selected this beautiful picture from Port Elizabeth, and actually it was Karin's work that she was among those who organized that event in Port Elizabeth, and now she's heading the Met Art challenge in South Africa, where there are many hundreds of children creating these beautiful artworks, and you have also a chapter on this in your book. So here is Karin, and I would like to ask Karin first that how's the competition, how many submissions, how do you see the current status, because you have big moments in these days, right?
Thank you, Kristof. Yes, and thank you everybody for this interesting discussion. I'm really enjoying it. Yes, Kristof, you're right. We're in this year's competition, and we had, quite a lot more entries than we had last year during COVID, but not as many as we would have liked. We had more than 400 entries from grade 7 to 12 level, and it's been quite an interesting journey. What we've always discovered is that many learners really reach out and grab this opportunity of taking something which is maths and more rigid, or experienced as something traditionally more rigid in class, and then combining it with art, and then also having a venue to express themselves emotionally, their frustrations with life. So we've really been finding this such an interesting pathway. And also, as I'm now reviewing some of the comments that the judges, we are currently busy judging the competition artworks, and some of the comments that the judges have been sending me are also so interesting to read, how they are, that their eyes are opening to how learners experience things and just how they are actually combining things. And yes, I looked at some of these children's artworks and realized how the competition is actually over the 4 years starting to mature in certain respects with what type of entries the learners are sending in as well. So it's really been a great process. And then I also want to say that Charlotte, I have so much compassion for what you have said with regards to going to the school right next door and then seeing how things happen. I've been humbled a lot one tends to rush into a school, even with a math art competition, promoting things and pushing people into, yes, this is how we do it and this is what we do. And then they come back and say, but okay, this is what we've been doing. And then you realize, oh dear, maybe I should keep quiet first and listen and learn and then talk. So yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kristof. I don't know if there are any other questions with regards to the math art competition or the path that we're following here.
All right. Thank you, Karin, for being with us. And let me ask you that: how do you see the importance of creativity in South African classrooms? How much is it recognized? Because I also see that there is a very strong trend now. I see more and more events and more recognition also for your work, for the STEAM movement in South Africa. There are big conferences organized, and hundreds of teachers are visiting these really massive events. And I also got to know about outdoors learning parks in beautiful areas. How much these contents and these approaches reaching those children who are really in the most need, because we know also there are huge differences in the system and in the access. So how you manage to reach those who are the most excluded maybe of this elite learning, and yeah, what's your approach?
And thank you, Kristof. Yes, your final words, elite approach, is actually what, I don't know how the other countries experience this, but the whole STEAM approach, and as I've been visiting schools, the elite schools, a lot of them have STEAM programs where they have a fantastic makerspace or a room and a program that is pushed and funded by the school and the governing body, and they go ahead and they have really awesome things with regards to STEAM. But in the really rural, poor schools, people are just battling to get down to business of teaching maths. And the creativity or the amount of things that reach those kids is very low. So what, for example, some of the projects that you're referring to, where they take kids to the outdoors, they take kids out of the school, but then it's like maybe once a year, a project where the children are taken out into nature, have a STEAM program done with them. And we do the same in our centers. And maybe once or twice a year, we will visit an area, have a STEAM workshop, excite the kids, hopefully show them that there is something else. But in the actual classroom itself, there's very little creativity, as teachers are really battling to get just down to focusing on the curriculum and pushing through and getting the work done. So currently what we're experiencing now, we've just last week finished another round of professional development with teachers, where we really try to excite them to try something new in class, to make maths learning a bit more fun, do something else for them. And they come back to us at the stage because they don't have connectivity with their learners, and their learners are in an approach where they only come to school in the junior grades, especially grades, in the junior high school grades, They come to school only on every second or even every third day. And the days in between, although they give the kids work to do at home, they do absolutely nothing, or they take it as a holiday, or most of the kids do nothing. So the poor teachers are so stressed out just to get the work done in those days that the kids are at school. So yeah, that's quite a challenge. Sorry, I've been saying so much.
No, that was really belong to the topic, and it was very important. So we are heading towards the end of this session. So I'm really thankful for being with us. And still, if you have any questions, I guess Leonard and Patrick will share also contact details and websites of their upcoming book. So please support the book and please get the book. Please watch how this book is coming soon. And Leonard and Patrick, do you have something as a conclusion now?
Well, I think Patrick already said so much that needs to be changed, and I think it's just only that we need to push change. And Pam underlined that so fantastically. I love this passion also. And I can just only hope that that a lot of people just only are inspired and think, and that's what happened with me. It's just, just maybe first start at home and just try to inspire my own kids to do something differently. What my parents actually did, just also very early on, and yeah, I think that's starting in your own home turf. I think that's probably the easiest. Thank you everybody to really being here and just interested in all that work that we've done. Also, thanks again, Patrick and everybody. Good.
Thank
so
you.
Excited.
Actually, Ungkok raised hand. Ungkok, do you have something for 1 minute?
I want to ask something about the STEM project because we need. I need your idea actually because I'm a teacher in Indonesia and I'm always confused to looking for context in around us because sometimes we know that around us so many contexts we can make to be a project STEM, but when we to connect to our curriculum, I'm so always confused how to make the smart project and can be implemented to our student. And maybe you can share me how to identify some content, some context to be a STEM project like that. Maybe have idea for that. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that Patrick, you have tons of materials.
I think the key thing, as I was saying earlier, is, well, I didn't share this part. So in the inquiry process, when you're going through and you're co-constructing things with the students, let's say that you've chosen a topic or a theme in your area. And by the way, apa kabar? I hope it's baik or bagus. And in your area, try to make it relevant in the context for the students. But if you choose a topic or a theme, and then you ask the students to come up with what they want to learn about. And so the students will come up with a bunch of their questions they want to have answered. But as a teacher, you also have your questions you want them to answer. And you collate those questions and answers with the content that the students have to learn in those different subject areas. So what happens is you'll have the students ask them, well, what do you want to learn about, let's say water drainage or whatever the topic is, sustainability or something along those lines. And then you say, what questions do you have? What do you want to learn? What inquiry are we going to do? And the students will come up with lots of questions. And then you look at their questions, you say, okay, which of the subject areas or content that you have to teach can you put in with each of those questions? And so it's kind of like a puzzle. You're taking the students' questions plus your questions and bringing them together to ensure that they've learned the content that you have to deliver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it. But I have made 2 projects in the last years. The first project to gardening long peanut and build a building. And then when I evaluate my project, this is just activity. So how to build their creativity, critical thinking, and the other. So I'm so confused how to make them to be greget. What is the meaning greget? Interesting to this project. They just activity, not deep thinking like that. So right now I'm still learn about this project to make sense to my student.
Yeah, so I think you said it is getting the students interested in the subject. And the best way to get students interested in the subject is for them to create questions they have that they could learn more about that subject. And it's making that connection in the beginning, I think, is really, really important. Like right now, I'm sitting here in WeWork, and we're going to be creating the WeWork Olympic Games, and we're going to be looking at areas of excellence and best practice. But we're co-creating the different games, the different subject areas, the different questions that we're going to answer. And that process of co-creation will engage the learners to want to go further and learn more. So I think it's the balance between you as the teacher telling the students what they need to learn and them feeling like they're in control of their learning, and you're kind of guiding that learning through their questions and through the inquiry connected with the topic that you're teaching. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Maybe somebody else has something to share as well, but that's would be my answer to your question.
Chris, you are muted.
Yeah. Patrick, that's a great answer. I think tying it all back to really being connected in a human connection between teacher and student, and being in an exchange where you're finding common ground to leverage to allow students to exercise their creativity so that they can learn more. I think that's really great advice. It's time for us to move forward though, and our next speaker is Rinus, and Kristof, you are longtime companions or longtime friends, and would you introduce him to those attending, please?
Of course. I'm really honored to introduce my friend and, if I may say, colleague in a few projects, Rinus Roelofs. And Rinus is a sculptor and also a mathematician. It's many ways a unique constellation, especially in his case, because he's nurturing and maintaining both careers in the same time, and connecting these areas in his art and also in his research. And his art is very, very special, both for the art world and both for the math audience. So it provokes a lot of attention in all of these fields. And he's also a very devoted educator. So he's not only a star in galleries all around the world, he is on the one hand, but on the other hand, he's never tired to sit in his car and pack all this hands-on equipment related to his artwork and bring to children anywhere in the world, driving many hours with his equipment, and teaching through playing and through creating all those really complicated and simple ideas, what he can show, that how simple things and how minimal efforts can also lead to maximal outcome. So his work is also connected to design on many ways, and many applications are also coming from his ideas, from his work. I'm happy to know Rinus like more than 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and watching his career. And I'm really happy that today he's inviting us into his own studio, actually, so we can see the place where he's working. And he's also decided to share some very new problems, very new things, what he's currently working on. So Rinus, the floor is yours, and we are very excited to see what you show us.
Okay, well, thank you for the invitation. Can you make my screen bigger, or?
I think now you are the biggest possible.
Okay, well, I see myself in a very small screen.
Yeah, I think now you are pinned, and maybe your view is set somehow else, but I ask the audience, do you see that Rinus is full screen now, right? Yes,
when he speaks, he is full screen.
Okay, well, yeah, well, I made a very special talk for today. So all the things I show were just prepared for this talk, and I have to say that my inspiration for this talk comes from a book which was printed about 500 years ago. A book by the German artist Albrecht Dürer. He is known for his paintings and graphic works, but he also wrote some very interesting books. And the book, what I'm talking about, is a book which was meant as a source for inspiration for other artists and other craftsmen. Yeah. So for very different fields. And there was a very interesting chapter which was about building models of polyhedra. And Dürer came with the idea to make plans for polyhedra. So with this plan, it's very easy to build a paper model of a dodecahedron. This was very new for that time. Well, in fact, Dürer was the first man who came with the idea to make plans which you could cut out of paper and fold it into a dodecahedron. So it's a very neat way to make paper models. When you look at the dodecahedron and you want to make a model, well, you should think, well, you have to know all the angles. But when you make a paper model, the problem becomes very easy because you just fold, and when they connect, it's okay. So you don't even have to know the folding angle. It comes all right. And that's new. So you don't have to know anything about calculations of angles, and you can make complicated models with the trick of introduced by Albrecht Dürer. Well, he also made a plan for a cube, which is very simple. You will know this one. And you can fold the cube by just folding all the faces together, and you've got a cube. I think the cube is the only polyhedron from which we know what the folding angle really is. It's 90 degrees. And for all the other polyhedra, it's, well, you don't have to know it when you make paper models, but when you want to make wooden models, well, you have to calculate the angles. So when you want to make a wooden model of a dodecahedron, for instance, you can cut out the pentagonal faces and glue them together, but now, well, the angle isn't very convenient. So you have to know the angle before you put them together. And for the cube, the angle is 90 degrees. So for a wooden model, it's very easy to make the parts. And nowadays, many students have access to a laser cutter, especially on high schools or universities. So you can make very neat models, and you just can put them together like this, and you get the angle. And because the laser cutter cuts a 90 degrees angle, it fits. It fits always. So with the laser cutter, it's very easy to make wooden models of a cube. So the cube is the only polyhedron with 90 degrees angles. So I thought, well, if this is all you can make with the 90 degrees, well, it's quite a limitation. But you can also see it as a challenge. You can think about, what can I do with folding angles of only 90 degrees to make constructions? Well, I was thinking about this and came with a series of new ideas of objects that could be made with only 90 degrees angles. Well, of course, in the field of polyhedra, we've got the infinite polyhedron, the Coxeter one, which you can also make with the same unit that you use for the cube. So this is an infinite one, and I think this is a nice next step. Another structure you can make with just the square pieces is this one. So here you see we connect at some points 6 squares and at other points 3 squares. And so it's a combination of points that you connect. Well, this is about it when you just focus on the square pieces. Of course, you can take some longer pieces like this, but that's not really a new object. It's more like, well, an enlarged cube in one direction. But when I look at this object, I see a new element, and that's the double square. And with the double square, you can make a real new object, which is not just an elongated cube. And at that point, it became interesting because this new object, well, is this one, is an infinite object, so you can add as many double squares as you want. And it also has some kind of spiral movement in it. So we come to new objects which are more interesting than just a cube, but be aware that we only use 90 degrees angles for the connection of the faces. One more step in this direction was the use of the so-called L-shape parts. Well, you can combine a square, a double square, and an L shape to make this object. But when you use only L shape parts, there's an infinite number of structures you can build with it. And I just want to show a few of them. Well, this is one of them. It looks like a stack of cubes, like this, but it's made with only one piece, the L shape, and it connects with 90 degrees. So it's quite easy to assemble this kind of constructions. Another one with the same parts, so you can see the difference of the both objects. And also, well, I'm going to show this one. So there's a variety of possibilities of what you can do with the L shapes. And also in the two-direction infinity, well, there are possibilities to make nice constructions with the L shapes, as you can see here. Well, this is still just a simple one. A more complicated one I've got here. Well, I hope you can see it. It's kind of double layered, and well, so there are L shapes in the top layer and L shapes in the bottom layer, and you can extend it to infinity. Well, it's still limited to more or less square faces or combination of square faces, and I try to expand the possibilities by looking at other shapes of the faces. One first step was this one. When you just cut a square face into two halves by the diagonal, you can make this construction with, again, only 90 degrees connections. Well, now we've seen a lot of possibilities that you can do with just squares and half squares and double squares. One of the things that I didn't like about this is that you still stay in the X, Y, Z frame or grid. And when you look at the dodecahedron, you need another grid, another direction. So would it be possible to extend the possibilities of using right angle constructions in that field? Well, I went back one step and looked at this object again, and I saw, well, at all the points, there are 6 squares coming together. When I take out just that part, you can see here, this is the part where the 6 elements come together. And in fact, it becomes now another object. In which you can recognize a polygon instead of a polyhedron. And that polygon has 3 points. So it's in fact a triangle which you use to make this object. The first idea was to extend the polygon, so to make it not a triangle but a square. But so like this one. But the challenge was again to use only right angles, and well, you just have to calculate the exact shape of the faces, but you can reach the point where they connect in exactly 90 degrees. So now we have a way to build models of polygons of any number. So this is the next one. But also here, it's exactly 90 degrees, like in this one. So here we have the pentagon. And well, we can go on with other polygons, of course, the hexagon, the heptagon, and octagon, etc. But when you look at the pentagon, there are 2 ways to make a pentagon based on 5 points. So we can make just this pentagon, but we can also skip 1 point, and then we get the Pentagonal Star. And also that one could be made with only 90 degrees. And I've got the model here, and you see that, well, you can now see the Pentagon, but the model becomes more. So you see an environment of the elements. In fact, what you make now is a knot. So we now have made a step towards the fields of the knots. And we can extend this because the 5-2 knot is, well, the first one in the series, but we can go on with other ones, like here, the 7. And you see here the nice knotted figure. And another one over here. So, in fact, there's an infinite series of knots you can make in this way. So this is always one point that you skip to reach the following point. And you can make it more complicated by skipping more points. And well, here you see the 8-3 knot. And when you look at the side, you see the nice environment. All these models are very easy to assemble because the 90 degrees angle that you need to connect the pieces. So all the pieces are made by laser cutting the parts and then connected in a very easy way because it's only 90 degrees. And well, this was the most complicated I've made so far. This is based on the 11 gone, and it's the 11-4 knot, so it's a very complicated one, but still easy to assemble and a nice challenge for workshops or other occasions. I want to step back to the field of the real polyhedra, and that's because I discovered that there was one more complicated object that you could make with only 90 degrees angles, and that's this one. this is based on the icosahedron, but as you can see, some pairs of triangles are replaced by other pairs of triangles by using the diagonal of the two, and then you get this object. In fact, this is an in-between step of the Buckminster-Fuller process of transforming an octahedron. It's a Jitterbug transformation of the octahedron, in which all the faces of the octahedron turn and come back to the octahedron again. In between, you've got this situation in which all the triangles are connected like this, and this is exactly 90 degrees, and this is also exactly 90 degrees. So this is a very interesting object, which is, some kind of polyhedron. That brought me to the idea to investigate if there were other polyhedra we could make in this way. And I needed some inspiration of another source for that one. And that source was Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci came with the idea to make elevations. With elevations, I mean this. When you've got a tetrahedron, and suppose you place one tetrahedron on top of each of the faces, then you got a new object which looks like this. So you can see a tetrahedron on top of each of the faces. And the first step you can take is when you lower each of those points a little bit, so you get 90 degrees angles, you solved half of the problem, because all the connections here are then 90 degrees. The only connection that's not 90 degrees is this one. But there's a small trick you can apply to make that also 90 degrees. When you rotate all the pyramids around their own axis, you can try to find the point where the angle here is 90 degrees. And the solution is this one. So here you see the pyramids on top of the faces. And here you see the connection where it now is 90 degrees. So in fact, we can build a model of a tetrahedron by using only 90 degrees angles. So we don't have to know the angle of the tetrahedron itself. This trick could also be applied on a more complicated one. So what you see here is the elevation of the icosahedron, in which you have got 20 pyramids on top of each of the faces. And now when you rotate every face, every pyramid around their own axis, and try to find the angle where it becomes 90 degrees, the result is this one. So now we have really a dodecahedron in which all the angles, you can see it here, are exactly 90 degrees. So again, we can construct a model of a dodecahedron with just making these parts and connect them side by side, and then construct the complete dodecahedron. So I thought this was a very nice result of my exploration of the 90 degrees application to build real wooden models. I went one step further, and therefore I needed to go to the jewels of the normal polyhedra. What you see here is a jewel of the cube octahedron. It has 12 faces, 12 rhombs. And I thought the step you can make is when you take each of the edges and you take a surface perpendicular to this edge, it cuts this one and this one. And well, it's better to demonstrate it on a model. So here you can see the final model, and this is the original face of the rhombic dodecahedron. What I did is I just cut away parts of this face, and I end up with this face, and now you get a little piece to connect the faces, but this is the face that was perpendicular to the original edge. So there's a 90 degrees angle here and a 90 degrees angle here. So this was a method to transform a rhombic dodecahedron into a 90 degrees construction. So you get those nice butterfly faces and those connectors, and it's very easy to assemble this to the final model. This appeared to be a general trick. So here you've got the model based on the dual of the icosahedron dodecahedron, a polyhedron with 30 rhombs. So you can see the rhomb here, and you can see what has to be cut off of the rhomb to end up with the butterfly face, and then you can make the complete model. So because the original model has 30 rhombs, you need 30 of those faces, and then 60 connectors, and then you have the final model. The faces of the basic polyhedron don't have to be regular. So, well, I had another example here. So the face in this case is not regular. It has 4 sides, and that's important. The model here is based on the dual of the rhombic truncated cube. And it has nice different faces, not square, but rectangular holes over here and triangles over there. So the trick is very general, and you can transform any object when it has, well, not square, but face with 4 sides. You can transform such an object into a 90 degrees construction. So at that point, I stepped back to the cube, and well, the cube has exactly square faces, and when you apply the trick of the butterfly faces, then you will see that you end with just 2 triangles that do not connect. So with pure squares, this trick doesn't work. But there's a nice way to transform the cube a little bit. So instead of this plan of the cube, we can use just rhombs like this, and the plan becomes a little bit different. And well, in fact, there are 2 different ways to do this. Well, it's a slight difference of the plan, but the outcome when you fold the plan is totally different. Well, let's see. These are the 2 different shapes. So the one is the elongated cube, and the other is the flattened cube, so to say. And these are really different shapes. And when you transform these into a 90 degrees construction, you'll see that you end up with complete different objects. So this is the one, the elongated cube, and with a nice triangle at the top. And this is the other one. The flattened cube. And you see the objects are totally different. Well, I think it's important that, with this step, we created a real fundamental step. At this moment, in computer drawing, there are two kinds of meshes that are applied. The triangular mesh, but also the quadrangular mesh. And we now reach a point that each of the quadrangular meshes can be transformed into such kind of butterfly constructions. And I just took one, which was not as regular as the other ones. And well, it was quite easy to transform it into a model that is really easy to construct. So I think this is a step that could be very useful for workshops in schools for architecture, but maybe also for other applications. So this is what I wanted to show right now, and I hope to have some questions which I can answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinus.
Thank you.
Yes. Wow. So could you talk about a little bit about what was the insight that you had to think that showed you the initial extension of a polyhedron into these spaces? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. Yes. The book of Dürer, in which he explained a lot of things about plans of polyhedra, was a big source of inspiration for me. It was meant as a source of inspiration for the artist at that time, but it still is. And I tried to understand fully what Dürer tried to teach me. And I came up with studying transformations of polyhedra, and so one of the transformations was the Buckminster Fuller transformation, and which ended up with this one. And at the moment, you see these two objects. I couldn't imagine that this was all. So this was in fact the starting point of my investigation. And it took me quite some time to find real new shapes, and but step by step, and posing the right questions again and again helped me to reach my final presentation. Does it answer your question?
Yes, very much. I'm just still sort of stunned. I'm sorry. I'm without words. Pam has raised her hand with a question. Pam, would you speak? Give us your thoughts.
Thank you, Rinus. Absolutely spellbinding, just riveting presentation. You filled it with, if you did a discourse analysis on what you were saying while you were introducing these different shapes and constructions, and you kept on saying, what if we were to, what else can we do with this? And problem solving, lots of times, here is a problem and we're solving it. What if we, so this has been coined possibility thinking by the now unfortunately deceased Anna Kraft, who developed possibility thinking as the center of creativity thinking, asking what else, what if we were to try and, engage differently or extend. You also mentioned Leonardo da Vinci. So can you tell us more about the idea of how we can work with our students in early years, in primary school, in secondary schools, further education, higher education, to work with Leonardo's kind of as a model for this what if? Because, he seemed to ask that question of himself and of his work a lot. How does this question inform you, and how might we use it in education more effectively? Thank you again.
Yeah, well, I think the central word is curiosity. Leonardo da Vinci made drawings of polyhedra, but he did it when he was invited by a mathematician, Luca Pacioli. And I think they discussed the matter together, and together they came with new ideas. And the idea of elevation was really new for that time. And when you look at an elevation, well, it comes close to the ideas which came many centuries later. In fact, what happens when you make an elevation of in this case, an icosahedron, is that you build a second skin around it. But you have to look quite close and to read quite close what Luca Pacioli and Leonardo da Vinci wrote before you understand what's really happening. And double-layered polyhedra, that's what you get when you add a second skin around a polyhedron. Double-layered polyhedra were described many centuries later. And also with this kind of things, well, I've got one here, over here. So like this model, this is a double-layered cube, as you can see. This is purely inspired by the drawings of Leonardo da Vinci. If you replace the outer face like this by a pyramid, you get exactly an elevated cube, which da Vinci described together with Pacioli. So you have to read close and to keep your mind open when you read things. And try to stay curious, try to find questions, because it helps to understand, but it also helps to come to new ideas, to get inspiration.
Thank you. Just like you, you're the inspiration. Thank you.
Mentioning inspiration, Stephen Jacobs became really enthusiastic during the talk. Stephen, would you like to comment to Rinus?
Rinus, are you on drugs or something?
No, in fact, I have to say I stopped drinking alcohol.
When you first started and held up the cube, I thought, well, this might be a good time to go take a nap, go back to bed. This morning, and then it was like sitting in a rocket. It just shot off, and I really felt my feet not touching the floor under my desk. It kind of scared me. They have my brain. Really, I mean, I can see why kids would just at first run from something like this, because it's like going off a high board in a swimming pool. You know, the first time to go that deep into your brain to picture an idea. You know, it's like jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. It's just you had to dive and fall. And I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, who is this man? Who is this man? He's pulling my head. I haven't had my head pulled into something that deep in a long time, really. I mean, or at least there's a corner of my head that hadn't been expanded.
Well, thank you.
I don't know what to say. I need to go lay down. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
promise.
And actually, that's true that when you show these objects, and especially when also children, and not just children, but anyone else would have the opportunity to touch them and to get it in our hand and change perspective and look into that from many angles, it's you certainly have the feeling that it's something beyond maybe your visual capacities, but in your hand, and you try to understand the tricks and you know the magic. How does it work? And I think this is an important moment also in education to to provide this kind of miraculous moments and structures. You are doing this a lot with children. And here we have a lot of teachers also with us who are curious about this three-dimensional spatial senses and embodied thinking, this what is in your geometry. So what's your advice to the teachers, Rinus?
Well, in a lot of schools, they don't talk about polyhedra anymore. And well, I think that's a pity because already Plato started to talk about this kind of objects. And there's so much that you can tell about these objects, but also the amount of inspiration you can get out of it, that we have to bring those objects back into the schools. That's the first step. And then a lot of stories can be told, and a lot of workshop events can be constructed. Because I think this material that I showed you, well, I showed you in a very short time, but you can take your time and really understand what's happening, because you're able to make the models yourself. And then you learn step by step all about the three-dimensional world around you. And that's the world in which we live. So we have to know our way in it.
Yes. Charlotte just found some connections between the two sessions today. So let me bring you here, bring Charlotte here also, and then Chris, of course.
Oh yeah, I simply stated that perhaps the link as I see it is that the first session just stated that we need a new kind of education, and perhaps how as well. And STEAM is a part of that new kind of education. And this material that we've seen now is a way that you can, a material that you can use as a part of reaching that aim. It's not a solution, but it's a part of what we could use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Part of the solution.
I'd like to ask a question, Rinus. Do you have access fairly close to you to that 5-3 knot that you were showing? Could you hold it up again?
The 5-2, you mean?
5-2, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the earliest, the earliest knot, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you decided to make that, you had to think through the design of those individual pieces as well, right? There's an element of discovery and curiosity and actual hard mathematical work that went into creating the single piece. Am I fairly accurate in?
Yes, but you also talked about levels, and I think the design part behind this kind of objects might be the next level also for the students. I use Rhino together with Grasshopper. Grasshopper is a programming tool within Rhino, the drawing tool on my computer. And because Grasshopper is a visual programming tool, it's easy to learn by students, even children from, well, let's say from 8 years on. And because you can see what you are doing. And with that programming tool, you can build the environment to create the real shape of the object. And when you've solved it for one, you've solved it for the complete selection. So also that gives a lot of understanding about how things work and how things can be developed. So starting with just building models might be a first step towards the next level. How do you design those objects? And,
yes.
Yeah.
I ask because there's some question about how do we link this sort of thinking into a STEAM integrated program, and it's fascinating and beautiful work, but there is also there are elements of new mathematical methodology and new design methodology that go into all of this that can be really intriguing for students and bring them into the process, I think.
Yeah, well, I like to say that when you want to teach people mathematics, you have to start first to let them fall in love with mathematics.
Yes.
And after that, it's much easier to learn mathematics. It's just like music. When you don't like music, it's impossible to learn a musical instrument. And so let's try first to let people fall in love with mathematics by just doing fun stuff, and this might help.
I think it's a great step in that direction. It works for me. Got me to fall in love with math again. Let's go. Are there other questions?
Yeah, there are some comments still coming in. So about collaborative, creative, embodied learning and problem solving. And actually, this is what I've seen several times with Rinus, when these modular constructions being built in a large scale and many children, many families could participate, and there was Leonardo's idea, and Rinus identified in a margin sketch in a codex that kind of construction method, and he created these modules, and then children and professors, many ages, many knowledges could come together and share this experience. So this is also belongs to this. So I'm really thankful for every one of you who participated today. I agree with Charlotte that there were a very strong link between the two sessions today. Maybe we didn't know it before, but it turned out to be very closely connected. So thank you for joining us, and we would like to say thanks for the organizer, for the Frame team in Seoul. They initiated these meetings, and it has been shown that these are needed for global cooperation. We recorded the talk again, so you will find these talks on 4D Frames YouTube channel. I will put here what you need to put into the search if you want to find their YouTube channel, and also Experience Workshop STEAM YouTube channel. You can also find all the talks previously, and this talk will be there too. So Chris, is there anything more to conclude today?
I have nothing else to add. I'm still completely undone by both speakers this evening. It's just, I'm speechless.
Okay, so welcome back. Let's look forward to the next session. We will continue in July with other beautiful speakers will join us with beautiful topics, and stay tuned, sign up also for Eventbrite for these events, and let's come together again in a month from today. Thank you so much, Mr. Park. Thank you, Sung Wolim, for providing the firm background for these meetings and also sending out invitations and communicating these events. And everybody stay tuned and also have a beautiful STEAM summer. And I mean, okay, there are different seasons everywhere now, but anyway, have a creative time also meanwhile, okay? Thank you so much. And thanks for the flowers, Pam. I wish I could give you real flowers, but it will happen soon, yes. Okay.
The performance of mathematics, surely.
Yes, yeah, exactly. All right.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Let's stay in touch.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Goodbye.
For having us again.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Have a great day and have a good night wherever you are.